The air in the penthouse didn't just turn cold. It died. Hae-In is pinned against a marble wall, 68 floors above Busan's glowing waterfront. The city hums below her like something alive and indifferent. Across the room, the man they call the Ghost of Busan hasn't moved. He doesn't shout. He doesn't reach for the weapon she can see outlined beneath his tailored jacket. He just looks at her. And somehow, that is so much worse. She had said it like a procedural footnote, 4 words lifted from a dusty insurance file. You were there the night he died. She didn't know whose brother that was. She didn't know that the only people who knew the truth about that night were already in the ground. Now the man across from her, jaw tight, dark tattoo shifting at his collar like something waking up, begins to walk toward her. Slowly. With the patience of someone who has never once needed to hurry. The question that won't let you stop watching. How does a girl with a clean record know a secret that cost 50 men their lives? Hae-In had taken the wrong elevator. She didn't know that yet. She was too focused on keeping her hands steady and her voice professional. She was supposed to be on the 17th floor, interviewing a retired accountant named Mr. Kong about a decade-old warehouse fire claim. Instead, she had stepped out on the 68th floor into a space that didn't look like any office she had ever seen. Gray marble. Floor-to-ceiling glass overlooking Busan's port. Furniture that cost more than her apartment building. A staff member had waved her in without a word, assuming she was expected. Hae-In had assumed the same. The man behind the desk didn't look like a retired accountant. He looked like someone who had never retired from anything in his life. He was tall, dark-suited, with a neck tattoo that disappeared beneath his collar and eyes that moved to her face and stayed there. "You're late," he said. His voice was low. It had no warmth in it, not because he was angry, but because warmth was simply not something he kept available for strangers. "I apologize, Mr. Kong," Hae-In said. She used the name from her file. She sat down, opened her briefcase, and placed the manila folder on the table between them. Professional. Routine. That was the moment she noticed his eyes. They weren't on her face anymore. They were on the folder. She began the routine summary. Dates. Damage reports. Outstanding payout figures. She had closed 43 cases this year. This was supposed to be number 44. But the man across from her wasn't behaving like a man bored by paperwork. Every name she mentioned made his jaw tighten by a fraction. He leaned forward. His hands, folded on the desk, were completely still. The stillness of someone exercising control, not someone who was relaxed. Hae-In felt perspiration at the back of her neck. She turned to the middle of the file. "The report lists a witness," she said, scanning the page. "A man named Lim. He disappeared before the payout was processed." "Lim is dead," the man said. "Oh, when did he pass?" "The same night the building burned." He stood, walked to the window, looked out over the port, the cranes, the container ships, the black water. Hae-In stared at the back of his head and felt, for the first time, that she had made a very serious mistake about which floor she was on. The photograph was tucked behind the last page of the file. Hae-In nearly missed it. It was grainy, taken near the docks at night. A young man caught mid-stride, looking over his shoulder. Someone had clipped it to the file with a rusted staple, the kind of afterthought addition that suggested it had been inserted long after the original case was compiled. Hae-In lifted it, turned it over. There was a handwritten note on the back, in blue ink that caught the light in a way that 10-year-old ink simply doesn't. She read it aloud, the way she always did when processing, half to herself, half to the room. Investigator's note: fire was not the cause of death. Subject was transported to the waterfront. Witness confirms, you were there the night he died. She looked up. The man at the window had gone completely still. Not the stillness of listening. The stillness of a man who has just heard something that rearranges the architecture of a room. Slowly, he turned around. His face was different now. The controlled neutrality was gone. What replaced it wasn't anger, not yet. It was something colder. The expression of a man recalculating everything in a single breath. "What did you just say?" he asked. Quietly. The way the sea is quiet before a wave. The note says, Repeat it, he said. Every word. Hae-In's instincts finally caught up with her. She stood, pushing back her chair. But the wall was immediately behind her. She hadn't realized how close she had drifted to it. You were there, she repeated, because her mouth was still working even as her brain screamed at her to stop. The night he died. The man's jaw tightened. A door behind him opened. A second figure stepped into the room, broad-shouldered, suit jacket, hand drifting toward his waist before stopping. The man at the window didn't look at his lieutenant. He kept his eyes on Hae-In. Who sent you? He said. Insurance, she whispered. I'm from Regional Claims. I was sent by my manager. I have an appointment on the 17th floor. Jean, he said, still not looking away from her. Lock the floor. The lieutenant nodded and moved to the elevator panel. Hae-In's hands were shaking. The photograph slipped from her fingers and landed face up between them. The young man at the docks. The grainy night. The face that she now, too late, recognized as a younger version of the man standing across from her. A brother. Not a claim. Tae-Woo picked up the photograph. He held it the way you hold something that hurts, carefully, at a slight distance, as though the pain has a radius. Then he set it down and looked at the handwritten note. This investigator, he said. Do you know him? Only from the file, Hae-In said. He's the original case handler. He retired 3 years ago. He died 4 years ago, Tae-Woo said. Liver failure. I attended the funeral. The silence that followed was the kind that changes the shape of a room. Tae-Woo lifted the note close to the light from the window. The blue ink caught it, that faint, wet gleam. This wasn't written 10 years ago, he said. This was written within the last week. Hae-In heard herself say, before she could stop it, That's not possible. My manager gave me this file this morning. Your manager, Tae-Woo repeated. Mr. Park. He handles case assignment. He handed it to me in the lobby. Tae-Woo looked at Jean. Something passed between them. Describe him, Tae-Woo said. Gray suit. Hat pulled low. He didn't look me in the eye. He just... She stopped. The memory replayed. The dark lobby. The hat. The way the man had turned immediately and walked toward the exit without waiting for a response. She had assumed he was in a hurry. He wasn't Mr. Park, was he? She said. It wasn't a question. No, Tae-Woo said. He wasn't. Jean placed a laptop on the table. He pulled up a photograph, a man in his 60s, reading glasses, gray blazer. The real Mr. Park, smiling at what appeared to be a company function. Your actual manager, Jean said, has been on medical leave for 2 weeks. He hasn't been in the building. Hae-In sat down without being asked. Her legs had made the decision before her mind did. Someone impersonated him, she said. Someone gave me this file and sent me here. Yes, Tae-Woo said. Why? Tae-Woo looked at her for a long moment. The calculation in his eyes was still there, but something else had joined it. Not warmth, something more reluctant than warmth. The recognition that the woman in front of him was not what he had initially calculated her to be. Because I would never have accepted this file from a stranger, he said. But an investigator who looks like she got the floor wrong. He folded his arms. Looked out at the port. You were the perfect delivery. Jean tapped the back of the folder. Hidden beneath the flap, a small red symbol. A bird with clipped wings. Boss, Jean said quietly. If she's the messenger, she's been followed. They moved to the building's private stairwell, not the elevator, which Jean had already cut. Tae-Woo led, Hae-In in the middle, Jean at the rear. Nobody ran. Running was for people who panicked. Tae-Woo walked like a man who owned the building, which Hae-In realized he probably did. In the stairwell, Tae-Woo opened the file properly, spread on a landing, Hae-In holding a flashlight from her phone. The insurance documents were a shell. Beneath them, the real content, a government-sealed case file, stamped with a classification level that Hae-In's office had no access to. This is the original record, Tae-Woo said. His voice had gone flat. The one that documented the real cause of my brother's death. It was supposed to be destroyed. This is not an insurance case. It is the buried cover-up document from Tae-Jun's murder, resurfaced after 10 years, handled by someone with access to a high-security government archive, and delivered to the one man in Busan who would recognize exactly what it meant. Someone had kept this document alive for a decade. Someone had waited for the right moment to use it. The watermark, Tae-Woo said, pointing. This seal. It was only used by one division of the National Police. And that division was dissolved 8 years ago. Which means whoever pulled this, Jean said, had access before it closed. Hae-In looked at the margins. The handwritten notes, fresh ink, dead man's case number. She noticed something she had missed upstairs. There's a second note, she said. Bottom corner. I almost missed it. It's written in the fold. She pried the page flat. 5 words in small, careful script. Check page 6. She remembers. She looked up. I'm page 6. A distant sound echoed from above. The elevator, moving down from the penthouse level. Someone had called it from outside. We're out of time, Jean said. They descended fast, exiting into the building's basement parking. Tae-Woo's car was armored, matte black, low profile. They moved. 3 blocks from the building, Tae-Woo spoke. October 14th, 10 years ago, he said, without looking at her. Did you ever go near the Namhang waterfront? Late at night? Hae-In felt the question land somewhere very specific. Not in her mind. In her body. That cold wind feeling. Salt air. The sound of wet wood underfoot. She said nothing. But her silence was answer enough. The car was parked in a narrow lane near the fish market. The smell of salt and diesel came through the vents. Hae-In opened the folder to the last page. Not a document. A photograph. A surveillance shot, taken from across the street from her office building. The angle was high, rooftop or high window. Hae-In was in frame, walking toward the entrance, briefcase in hand, looking tired. Looking completely ordinary. 2 steps behind her, slightly blurred by movement, was a man in a gray hoodie. He wasn't looking at her. He was looking directly into the camera lens. Hae-In passed the photo to Tae-Woo. He looked at it again. Then his hand closed around it slowly, the paper beginning to bend under the pressure of his grip. Stop the car, he said. Jean pulled over. Tae-Woo stared at the photo. Who is that? Hae-In asked. Park Sung-jin, Tae-Woo said. My father's most trusted lieutenant. My brother's closest friend. A pause. I watched him buried. 10 years ago. Jean leaned over and looked at the photo. He said nothing. His face said enough. Hae-In looked more carefully at the man in the gray hoodie. He was holding something in his left hand, small and black, a device. And along his left eyebrow was a scar, thick and diagonal, the kind that doesn't fade. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. No text. A video file. She opened it. Her own living room filled the screen. Her mother on the sofa, arms wrapped around herself. Her father seated beside her, hands bound behind him. Standing between them, facing the camera, was the man from the photograph. He looked into the lens for a moment. Then he raised one finger to his lips. The screen went dark. A message appeared. Bring yourself to the Namhang Pier. Come with the ghost. 1 hour. Or they don't see morning. Hae-In's breath came out in a slow, controlled stream. She was surprised by how steady it was. She had expected herself to fall apart. She didn't. He didn't send me to find you, she said. Her voice was quiet but certain. He sent me to bring you to him. Tae-Woo looked at her. He's been watching you, he said. He chose you specifically. Invisible enough to get past my security. Credible enough to make me look at the file. Why me specifically? Tae-Woo didn't answer yet. But he was looking at her with an expression that had shifted entirely. No longer the cold calculation of the penthouse. Something older. Heavier. Because you've already seen his face once, he said. And he let you live. October 14th, Tae-Woo said again. Tell me what you saw. They were moving toward the waterfront. The city thinned around them, warehouses, shipping containers, the bones of Busan's working port. The sky was the dark blue of an hour before dawn. Hae-In closed her eyes. She had spent 10 years packing this away, labeling it nothing. Every therapist she had never seen, every conversation she had redirected, it had all been architecture built around one night she refused to fully enter. I was a student, walking home from a late exam. I cut through the waterfront because it was faster. The Namhang area? Near the old swing-arm crane. There were crates stacked at the water's edge. She paused. 2 men, carrying something heavy between them in a black bag. One of them laughed, this short, nervous sound. I hid. I told myself it was smuggling. Cargo. Something that wasn't my concern. Did either of them see you? One of them looked toward the crates. I ran. I didn't stop. In the front seat, Jean had both hands on the wheel and was staring straight ahead. Tae-Woo said nothing for a long moment. Hae-In was the only civilian witness to Tae-Jun's murder. Not a coincidence. Sung-Jin had been one of the 2 men at the water's edge that night. He saw her run. He chose not to pursue, not out of mercy, but because eliminating a frightened 19-year-old would have created noise. She was invisible. She was safe to leave. Until now. He didn't send you to me as a messenger, Tae-Woo said slowly, the realization shaping his words as he spoke them. He sent you to me as a frame. If I believed the witness and the cover-up were connected, if I thought you were part of the conspiracy, I would have removed you before asking questions. The shape of it was elegant and terrible. Sung-Jin hadn't needed to kill Hae-In. He had tried to make Tae-Woo do it for him. He needed me dead, Hae-In said. And he needed the file in your hands to make you angry enough to do it without asking questions. Yes, Tae-Woo said. But you didn't. A pause. Something shifted in his expression, not much. Just enough. No, he said. I didn't. The waterfront lights appeared ahead. Somewhere in the dark, her parents were waiting on a pier above black water. And so was a dead man. The message came through Jin's encrypted board 3 minutes from the pier. A broadcast, live open, sent to every active contact in the rival network across Busan. The message contained 2 images, a photo of Tae-Woo's car, license plate visible, and a screenshot of a message sent from Hae-In's personal account 40 minutes ago, while she had been sitting in that car. The message from her account read, "He's coming to Namhang." Now. Her phone. Her account. Her name. I didn't send that, she said. I know, Tae-Woo said. He had access to your device the moment he put that tracker in the file binding. He's been in your accounts since the lobby. Jean read the rival board's response. The bounty, 500 million won. Both of them. The deadline before sunrise. Sung-Jin had constructed a perfect closing mechanism. If the rivals arrived first, Tae-Woo died and Hae-In was collateral. If Tae-Woo's own men saw the broadcast, they would question whether she had led him into a trap. Either way, Sung-Jin remained in the shadows, clean, while the city did his work. He's been doing this for 10 years, Jean said, his voice carrying something Hae-In had not yet heard from him, a controlled fury. Every time the 2 factions moved against each other, someone fed the intelligence. It was always him. How long have you suspected? Tae-Woo asked. 6 months. I never had anything solid enough. A pause. The file is the solid thing, Hae-In said. Both men looked at her. The original case record. Government seal. Chain of custody. If that document exists, it can be verified. It proves the fire was staged. It proves Tae-Jun's death was not a rival faction killing. If there's no rival killing, Jean continued, there's no reason for the war. And if there's no war, Tae-Woo said quietly, there's only one man who benefited from it. Headlights appeared in the mirror. 2 sets. Moving fast. They're already mobilizing, Jean said. Tae-Woo looked at Hae-In. Directly, without flinching. I can let you out here. You run. Maybe you get far enough. My parents are on that pier, she said. I know. Then stop offering me exits, she said. And tell me what we're doing. Something crossed his face. Not quite a smile. The shadow of one. Jean, he said. Get the boats online. The pier was lit from below, floodlights aimed upward from the water's surface, casting everything in cold white. Hae-In's parents stood at the far end of the wooden structure. A man flanked them, one hand on a detonator, expression blank. Sung-Jin stood in the center of the pier. He had aged, the scar thicker now, the hair gone silver at the temples, but he stood with the ease of someone who had rehearsed this moment for a very long time. Tae-Woo walked forward alone. Hae-In stayed at the pier entrance, as instructed. "I thought you were dead," Tae-Woo said. "I needed you too," Sung-Jin said simply. "Why Tae-Jun?" For the first time, something crossed Sung-Jin's face that wasn't performance. "He found the accounts," he said. "He was 24. He was going to take everything I had built to your father and hand it over with an apology, as if loyalty was something I owed the Kong family after." Sung-Jin hadn't killed Tae-Jun merely to protect a financial crime. He had killed him because Tae-Jun represented the thing Sung-Jin had concluded was a myth, loyalty without self-interest. And he had spent 10 years proving himself right by watching both factions destroy each other over a lie he manufactured. Every funeral, every retaliatory strike, every lost soldier on both sides, a 10-year demonstration that everyone was exactly as self-serving as he was. He hadn't just stolen money. He had tried to prove that devotion was a weakness, and that the Kong family's belief in it had made them fools. "You could have disappeared," Tae-Woo said. "You were dead. No one was looking." "I needed to watch," Sung-Jin said. And the honesty of it was the most chilling thing he had said. That was when Jin's voice came through the earpiece, barely a whisper. "Boats in position. On your mark." And that was when Hae-In, at the pier entrance, saw the detonator man glance toward the water. Just for a second, distracted by the sound of engines. She didn't think. She moved, 3 fast steps, both hands forward, shoving the man sideways with everything she had. He stumbled. The detonator skittered across the planks. Her father kicked it into the water before it stopped sliding. Chaos broke. The boats roared in from beneath the bridge. Sung-Jin reached for a weapon. Tae-Woo was already moving, one arm still functional, one shoulder torn by the grazing shot he'd taken in the stairwell and said nothing about. He reached Sung-Jin in 4 steps. It wasn't graceful. Tae-Woo was bleeding and Sung-Jin was still strong. But the fight ended in under a minute, not because of strength, but because Tae-Woo had nothing left to be afraid of losing. That kind of man is very difficult to stop. The mist came in off the water before the sky began to lighten. Hae-In's parents were in the back of an ambulance at the pier entrance. Her mother had gripped her face with both hands and said nothing for a long time. Her father had simply leaned his forehead against hers. Hae-In let herself stay in that for exactly as long as she needed to. Then she walked back to the pier. Tae-Woo was sitting at the edge. His jacket was off, his shoulder bandaged roughly with the kit Jin had retrieved from the boat. He was looking at the water. Busan's port was beginning to move, the first shift of cranes, the low horn of a cargo vessel heading out toward open ocean. She sat beside him. "Not close. Not far." "The case file," she said. "Jin can authenticate the government seal?" "Already sent to 3 separate verification contacts," Tae-Woo said. "By morning, the documentation will exist in enough places that it can't be buried again." "And the rival factions? They'll need time." But the war was built on a lie. Once the lie is visible, the structure falls. Hae-In looked at the water. "I've been carrying that night for 10 years, she said. "I convinced myself it was nothing. Just something I saw on a walk home." Tae-Woo said nothing. "I'm sorry I ran," she added. "You were 19, he said. "And you didn't know what you saw." "I know now." A pause. The water moved. The cranes began their slow work on the horizon. "Is it finished?" she asked. Tae-Woo considered that for a genuine moment. "The war," he said. "Yes." Hae-In picked up the manila folder from the planks beside her. Page 6, the surveillance photo, the gray hoodie, the ghost's face. She held it for a moment. Then she folded it once and tucked it into her jacket pocket. Not to keep. To deliver properly, to the right authorities, through the right channels. The way she actually knew how to do things. "I should probably learn," she said, standing, "which floor I'm supposed to be on before I get off an elevator." Tae-Woo looked up at her. This time, it was unambiguous. A brief, exhausted, genuine smile. 17th, he said. "Retired accountant." "Right," she said. "I'll get there eventually." She started walking back toward her parents. Behind her, she heard him stand. She didn't turn around, but she heard him say quietly to the water or to her, it didn't matter which. My brother would have found you very difficult to rattle. She stopped, just for a moment. Then she kept walking. The file goes to the right desk. The case closes, the real one, number 44. And for the first time in 10 years, Hae-In sleeps without the cold wind feeling at the edge of her dreams.